We are live.
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Thursday, August 3rd Planning Commission meeting. If we can start with roll call, please.
Vice Chair, or Chair Dennison,
Here.
Vice Chair Pevsner,
Here.
Commissioners Moran, Simcock,
Here.
and Yo. We do have a quorum.
All right. Look for approval of the agenda.
I was not here.
It's the agenda.
Oh, today's agenda, sorry. Yes.
I have a technical question. Was the one item you were not sure about the first or the second item?
We don't need to move anything.
Okay, then I'll move we approve the agenda as.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Next up is approval of the minutes of the July 20th, 23 Planning Commission. Does anybody have any edits?
I was not here.
All right. Then if you will
Yeah,
make a
good.
motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes as submitted.
I second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstention.
Okay, motion carries. Next is the council liaison report.
City Council has nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. At this time, any person may address the Planning Commission concerning an item that is not on the agenda. The Commission welcomes your attendance and participation. When addressing the Commission, please begin by providing your name and address for the record. Please keep comments to no more than 3 minutes to assure an orderly and timely meeting. Seeing no one, we'll move to today's hearings. Disclosure of site visits and ex parte contacts. Does anybody have any ex parte contacts they'd like to disclose?
None.
No.
Nope. All right. First up is Hillside Development Permit 15-06 and Conditional Use Permit 15-06, an application to allow construction of a new single-family residence with an attached 3-car garage for a total of 4,423 square feet. I'll turn it over to staff for a presentation.
We do have a PowerPoint presentation by Josh Wolf. Again, this item was continued from our prior meeting. So we do have, the applicant is also here to answer questions and also has a presentation.
Bless you.
So as soon as we can get this queued up. Coming up with,
Go to view.
there it is. Just did all. Okay. We have 2 Zoom meetings running on 2 different computers to try to do this without having to go to the other computer, but it's not quite working.
It's also not sharing the correct screen.
No. There we go.
Excuse our technical difficulty there. Good evening, Commission. Tonight, the Commission will be reviewing the continued item for Stonegate Lot 26 at 608 Baldwin Court. This item was continued from the July 6, 2023 hearing with the comments from the commission to address Stonegate design guidelines. The first one being D 1.6 to revise the massing of the second floor to enhance the single-story element as it visible from Carter. Second was to respond to the design guideline D-1.5 to revise the south elevation and provide additional visual break of the continuous blank wall plane. And last, it was to respond to Stonegate design guideline B-2 to consider relocation of the garage. The project summary remains all consistent and compliant with code and with the settlement agreement. However, there is a slight change to the proposed gross floor area and an increase of 33 square feet that is still within the allowed by settlement agreement of 43 square feet. Again, this is a proposed new single-family residence of 4456 square feet, construction located on an existing pad, designed in a contemporary farmhouse architectural style. And all materials that were proposed originally remain the same. The site plan here shows that the building footprint, that is the footprint at the ground floor, has not shifted in any way. And in red, you can see the outline for the second story, and I'll go over that in more detail soon. On the left of the slide, you can see the original proposal. On the right is the revised proposal with a shift of the second floor more towards the north. And I've outlined here in red where that movement goes away, and in green where that movement goes towards. So the shift of the second floor kept the stairs in the same location, and due to this shift, it caused a reprogramming of the western bedroom so that the bathroom and the bedroom space were swapped. And in the primary bedroom, the walk-in closet was combined into one and mostly keeps the same programming. That shift results in a distance from the ground floor wall plane of 9 to 10 feet, up from a 3 to 4 foot separation. And the roof plan here shows that same shift in massing. The second floor roof stays primarily the same, although it is slightly cleaned up. And here on slide, the left hand is the original proposal of the west and east elevations, and the right hand is the revised proposal of the west and east elevations. And to demonstrate shifting of the second floor moved as viewed from the west elevation toward the left, and as viewed from the east elevation toward the right. And that really puts the massing more center on the building footprint. And as you can see from the second floor reprogramming, there was a slight shift in fenestration to accommodate the swap of the bathroom and bedroom space. Moving on to the south and north elevations, the change in massing was subtle here, but what's really noticeable is the area proportion of wall and roof. Now, if you look on the original, there's a very small roof plane area here on the south elevation and a larger roof plane area on the north elevation. The revised balances that out a little bit more to keep in proportion. Additionally, the south elevation includes additional fenestration into the kitchen area by adding windows. And moving on to massing study, on the left again is the original, and on the right is the revised proposal. And you can see how this shift in massing is a better relation to the upslope from Carter Avenue. And I just wanted to touch again on the landscape plan here. There's going to be significant planting along the southern edge of the property that fronts Carter. These plants include London plane trees, olive, and those would coexist with the coast live oak here along the southern edge. So that'll add a lot of softening and obstruction of that new building. But moving on to the renderings here, on the top of the slide is going to be renderings shown for demonstration purposes only without landscaping. To the left is the original proposal with the massing more forward to Carter, and on the right is the revised with the massing pushed back away from Carter. Now, on the bottom of the slide is represented on the left with the revised massing and existing landscaping, and on the bottom right is the revised massing with proposed landscaping. That includes those olive trees and London plane representations. Moving on to alternative views, you can see dead on of the proposed building with existing landscaping. To the right of that is the same view but with proposed landscaping. And then moving slightly east along Carter, you can see the building here. Most of its view is only of that kitchen area with the master bedroom suite above it. Then moving on to the 3D rendering as viewable from Baldwin Court. What I really wanted to press on here was that the location of the garage is in its existing and original location, and this is due to heavy site constraints, as you can see represented by these walls and retaining walls. Having a garage in an alternate location would not just result in a greater appearance from Baldwin Court, but would have a garage opening toward Baldwin Court as opposed to the garage opening more toward the north, as far away and as inobtrusive to the view from Carter as possible and from the entrance of the development site. If I can go back real quick, along that edge here, the western edge fronting or on the side of the garage, there will be a line of bottle brush planted here as well to further soften the building's appearance. So the findings remain pretty much the same as it was originally proposed, that it is consistent with the general plan for single-family residential use. It meets all zoning requirements, including height, setbacks, and parking. The new construction is on an existing building pad, and the project does not impact the ridgeline views. The new house is differentiated from the existing historic structures as a contemporary farmhouse design. That's differentiation from the Willis Estate and Carter Barn. Baldwin Court does provide a sufficient access for circulation of single-family development, and the development is consistent with single-family uses in the vicinity. The lot was created for the development of single-family residence, and the project meets all requirements of the zoning code, thereby meeting all findings for a conditional use permit. Moving on to Stonegate design guidelines, this is a custom architectural design that responds to the site conditions. Mass and bulk are reduced with bricks and wall plane, roof variation, architectural projections, and open patio. The variety of window sizes and configurations enhance the visual interest. Materials are durable and low maintenance, using metal roof and wood siding. And the landscape plan is water efficient and an integral part of the project design. Tonight, the Planning Commission may approve the application for Hillside Development Permit 1506 and Conditional Use Permit 1506, subject to conditions of approval pursuant to Planning Commission Resolution 23-10. They may approve the applications with modifications, deny the request, identifying findings that the Planning Commission feels cannot be made and the basis for rejecting those findings, or continue the subject project and provide direction to staff and the applicant. Staff is recommending approval of these applications pursuant to Resolution 23-10. That concludes my presentation, and the applicant is also present to provide a presentation unless you have questions of staff.
Any questions of staff?
I just got one, the last finding was the earth tone palette.
Mm-hmm.
The project's white. I mean,
Yes.
bright white. Is that earth tone?
So that is up for subject.
Okay, okay, I just want to make sure that as presented is what we discussed. Okay, that's it. I got it. Thank you. I won't make you explain it.
I do have a quick question. There was a proposal to add some more trees and everything. Is there irrigation being added for that too, or is it just,
So irrigation will be part of the landscape plan, yes.
okay, so it'll be part of that, even on that's hillside, basically, like towards Carter?
As it is proposed now, it's conceptual, but it
Right.
will have, it may be subject to change and be compliant with a water efficient landscape ordinance.
Okay.
All right, if the applicant would like to give a presentation?
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. My name is Stephen Chen. Going to present this project again here in front of you. Just like Joshua mentioned, we have been taking care of that second floor massing, pushing back to the front to make it more centralized, and then provide more balance between the front and back, and giving more setback to the Carter one. So the street impression won't be a two-story building to the neighbor and also the pedestrian walking along the sidewalk. This view does show the existing trees or landscape. After we plant a new tree, this view is pretty much covered by the trees in next couple of years eventually. So this won't be too much of a thing on the architectural two-story high or the building facade. I can fly around here to show you a different angle, which is we didn't cover on the presentation. This was to address the concern that we have last time on the building massing on the Carter one. I want to touch a little bit on the garage or the side here. Sorry, if you got motion sickness, let me know. So from here, this is more like pedestrian viewpoint to the house without too much of the landscaping in front of it. That's how much you will see from the sidewalk if you really want to look at the building. And like the staff was mentioned, the location of the garage is pretty much not many choice because of the site condition, the shape of it, and also the position of the site is about almost 6 feet lower than the street. So that's pretty much give us the only choice of the garage. And the way we treat this is facing a little bit offside to the Boeing core, so it's not directly to the street. So hopefully that won't get too much of attention when the residents walking by won't notice too much of the garage. Like I think our neighbor lot is doing similar thing to set the garage back, and you pretty much get almost the same impression between the two houses. If you look at to this one, you might see more on 25 than anything else because of the situation of the street front and also the site condition. So other than that, I think that pretty much addressed all the concern that we had last time. And if you have any other question, let me know, or if you want to see different view, let me know. I can fly around and to point out which view that you're concerned. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any questions for the applicant?
The color palette on the
The
house?
color pattern, yeah, we discussed that about the color to make it more earth tone. But when we look at all the building that we have so far, let me paint out a little bit. We have a lot of earth tone color in this neighborhood. This building is kind of setting to the corner of this whole lot, and the owner and I believe that we do need to let this building stand out a little bit, just because I'm sure the owner who live in there want to be a little bit recognizable. After all these landscape and tree cover a little bit brighter color, like white color, or this is not really purely white, it's a little bit gray color, light, that would say beige white color. It's just unfortunate on this machine here, it gives a little bit too much of the reflection on color, so the white become too white and the orange become too orange. Sorry about that. So other than that, this is not as white. We can bring out the actual color palette next time to show the commissioner the actual color that we pick. It's a little bit off-white on this one. So we believe that this color to be a little bit lighter color will bring this building out a little bit from the neighborhood. Otherwise, this house would kind of blend to the other neighbor and then just kind of disappear, and a little bit sad to the resident who's going to live in there. That's the only reason that we didn't change the color.
Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't give me heartburn, that's fine.
Hopefully that the roof color is a little bit darker, so that kind of gives the differentiation and kind of
Okay,
in the background. Yeah.
sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll take public comment from anybody who would like to speak to this specific agendized item. Hearing none, we will bring it back to the commission.
I get to go first? Sure. I think overall they met the requirements that we asked for. It's sort of a farmhouse style, so we can't ask for, color palettes of rock and things like that. So I think it fits the style of the architecture. They moved the house back as much as they could. I was looking at the settlement agreement, and I don't want to delve too much into the legal, but it goes back to 2005. And I noticed it talks about Maranatha's settlement primarily for the building pads. And the only reason I bring that up is that we're sort of stuck with these building pads. And there were two lawsuits. There was the initial one that was won by Maranatha on religious grounds, and then the second one, I believe, with Dorn Platts, the secondary builder who, but I guess what I'm getting at is I don't think anything changed from the original building pad agreements from 2005. Is that correct, Vince?
That's correct.
Okay, right. So my evaluation is I think they've done as much as they possibly could with this. You may have some different opinion about shifting the garage like we were talking about, but I think since we're stuck with these building pads, it's hard to be hypercritical of and make them jump through hoops for things that really just aren't even in the design standards. And they made the accommodation that we requested, so I can make the findings.
No, I agree. I think they, pushing that upper story back improved it a lot. It looks smaller, basically, from the street. The garage is in the front, but kind of the way I first noticed the garages on the other houses a little bit even more, even though this is prominent towards the front. It might just be the color that the garage area and the windows in this house are kind of very dark against a white house, so it kind of just blends into the house. To me, it's not like we have this bright garage door or something. So I think, and if they put the trees in, that'll even help it off of Carter also. So I think that it'll. Yeah.
We have a long history of people putting in trees and
Right.
things that don't show up. I can
Right.
name 2 projects in the canyon, but I do agree. I mean, as long as that's going to be codified, then I suppose at least people on Carter. See, what I'm talking about was a couple places in the canyon. This is going to be right on Carter, and if that doesn't happen, I'm sure the residents will be down bothering the poor planning commission.
Right.
Anyway, good observation.
So that's, yeah, I think, to me, they've done what we asked.
Okay.
I agree that they were very responsive in their design. I think the lot is really, really tough to put the garage anywhere else, so I understand why that was not revisited on this individual lot with the very narrow front entrance there. But you bring up a very interesting point with the color palette, because the whole idea of the color palette being earth tones is to minimize its visibility. And we're talking about the house that is the most visible, arguably, of any of the houses. And so, yeah, those two, right?
Yeah.
And the other one's a nice dark earth tone. And so,
Shingles and stuff.
to your very point, I mean, having a bright house that's not earth toned as the one that you see the most. Does that not give you concern?
Yeah, well, I was hoping for more of some more of an olive tone to it. If they want to continue with the contrast, to contrast with the Spanish style or the Mediterranean that's next to it, and then the shingled craftsman style, that's fine too. I mean, I think they should match it better. If that bothers you, I would say that I don't think that's a deal breaker for them. I think it's just a matter of changing literally the color of the paint. But I would like it. It would be nice to have it toned down. I don't mind the white hues or the grayish hues, but something maybe greenish, like his jacket. It's, you know.
Yeah, but I think that's something that we could ask them to work with
Okay.
with staff on as an
Sure.
accommodation.
Yeah, maybe they want to comment on it or at least agree to it, so we know what we're.
Yeah, are you amenable to working with staff to find a not as vibrant or bright of a color? And if they see the paint chips and say it just reads really poorly on TV, that's fine. But what we're seeing is a stark contrast to everything. You've done such great work on the architecture to push that back out of the way. I hate to then make the whole thing just really read. Okay, so then so then it sounds like we're happy with it. So if somebody wants to make a motion, including working with staff on a more earth tone based color palette.
Should we open this up for public comment?
Oh, yeah. You do have-
Again,
Oh, you want me to?
We did.
we did.
Okay. We can do it again. Someone arrived late if they want to give them a chance. It's up to you. You're the chair.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. So then I will,
I'm goofing with you a little bit.
I like it.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just for the record, the applicant concurred with your.
Thank you. Yes,
with your
the applicant did concur with our suggestion. Thank you. So with that, if somebody wants to make a motion including that direction,
I'll move we approve Hillside Development Permit 1506 and Conditional Use Permit 1506 with the conditions that the applicant will work with staff on the color palette to make it the color more earth tone.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next up, we have Hillside Development Permit 15-03 and Conditional Use Permit 15-03 for 402, oh, no, I'm sorry, an application to allow construction of a new single-family residence with an attached three-car garage. Turn it over to staff for a presentation.
So Associate Planner Wolf will present this next project.
Thank you. So Planning Commission tonight will be introduced to Hillside Development Permit 1503 and Conditional Use Permit 1503 for the Stonegate Developments Lot 2 at 605 Baldwin Court. The applicant is requesting the construction of a new 4,409 square foot single-family residence, including an attached three-car garage on an existing flat pad. And the construction is pursuant to 17.52070C2 for approval of a hillside development permit in the hillside zone. Additionally, it is also pursuant to condition of approval number 159 of tract map 54016, where conditional use permit is required to differentiate from the McCover Cabin, Carter Barn, and Willis Estate. Criteria for review is going to be Chapter 17.52 Hillside Management Zone, unless otherwise superseded by the Stonegate Design Guidelines of July 2010 or the settlement agreements up through December 2021, which expresses the maximum allowable floor area and the placement of buildings over slopes. So again, to reiterate, this is a new single-family residence of 2 stories with an attached, three-car garage for a total of 4,409 square feet. The new construction is located on an existing flat building pad. It is of a craftsman style architecture with low-pitched gable and hipped roofs, materials incorporating a natural appearing material, and details exposing structural elements emphasizing wood materials. The project is located at the southwest corner of Baldwin Court and Nathaniel Terrace. It takes access from Baldwin Court and has significant street frontage along Nathaniel Terrace. Other lots on screen outlined in red are currently under review, pending Planning Commission's hearings, outlined in blue to represent approval of entitlement, outlined in orange for construction plan approval pending an issuance of building permit, outlined in yellow to represent issuance of a building permit, and then outlined in green to represent the finished construction. And then, as we know, Lot 26 was just approved for entitlement with direction. Here are some site photographs. Of note, facing west toward the property, you will notice a point where the sidewalk ends, and that represents the approximate location for the driveway approach. The photo taken in the property and facing out toward the west is taken with the horizon approximately at center. And the photo demonstrates here on the lower left that there's a dramatic upslope that begins on the property. Facing east, you'll barely be able to see the upper extents of the Willis Estate. Photos facing east are provided prior to the finished construction of Lot 24, but this does face Lot 24 and Lot 23. And then for photos facing south and north, you'll see a berm visible at the end of a generally flat graded area looking south that represents the building pad and the established sense of the pad elevation. The photo taken in on the property and facing north also gives a good sense of the established difference in elevation between the existing grade and street. And again, facing east on lots 23 and 24 will be directly visible. Regarding the ridge lines, the nearest ridge line is located upon Lot 10 with a horizontal distance of approximately 253 feet and a vertical distance of approximately 66 feet. And that is a distance from the nearest property line. The pad elevation is approximately 89 feet below the ridge line. So regarding the slope study, the existing site's building pad is primarily within category 1 of less than 15%. However, there are areas in and around the lot which are within slope categories 2, 3, and 4, 4 being greater than 25%, and will require grade cuts creating retaining walls and berms. Highlighted areas on screen represent the approximate areas of excavation by slope category to achieve a full building pad elevation of 1,091 feet. Moving on to conceptual grading. Grading requires approximately 1,000 cubic yards of cut with 100 cubic yards of fill, leaving 900 cubic yards to export. A series of retaining walls is proposed at the center of the lot that will wrap the building footprint at the north and west sides. No retaining wall will have an exposed height greater than 6 feet. Pad elevation is at the 1091 foot elevation, which is 6 feet higher than lot proposed at Lot 1, 13 feet lower than the average street elevation of Nathaniel Terrace, and 2.5 feet higher than the average street elevation at Baldwin Court. The drainage is highlighted in blue and includes an underground system of perforated subdrain pipes, catch basins, and PVC drainage pipes leading into an underground infiltration basin located below the driveway, then overflowing into the parkway drain. There are 2 protected coast live oaks situated on the high hillside portion of the lot, which have no conflict with the proposed project and can be protected in place through the construction of this project. In the conceptual site plan, there is a 2-bay garage opening and stepped back from the porch approximately 7 feet 9 inches, with an additional 12-inch recess provided for the garage door. Projections into the setback areas include a front porch, not more than 6 feet, a fireplace at the north end, and decking along the south end. That decking and projection into the side yard setback does provide access through and around the building. The side yard setbacks shown on screen are calculated as a basis of an average lot width, or the southern side yard setback equals 10% of the average lot width, equal to 8 feet 2 inches, with the remaining 16 feet 5 inches for the north end as required. However, as provided, you get a north side yard setback of 25 feet 11 inches. Provided on the south side is 9 feet and 4 inches. Front yard setback is established at 25 feet, and a rear yard setback is 95 feet 5 inches, mostly due to the hillside slope. Moving on to the conceptual landscape plan. Landscaped areas do take advantage of the remaining natural land area between the residence and Nathaniel Terrace, as well as moving on to Baldwin Court to create a vegetated privacy screen consisting of shoestring acacia, strawberry tree, palms, and aloe, each of which are part of the Stonegate Design Guidelines recommended plant palette. The raised planting area screen along Nathaniel Terrace varies in elevation, tapering from 1 feet near the driveway to about 13 feet just where the current coast live oak, proposed coast live oak is to be planted. Hardscape materials include stone and concrete in varying shades of tan, as well as gray for walkways. Moving on to the ground floor plan, it includes the 3-car garage, family and living rooms, a dining nook, library, kitchen with auxiliary interior fry kitchen, and pantry, along with a powder room and ensuite bedroom. The family room opens southward to the open deck area, and the total area for the first floor is 2,208 residential plus 596 square feet for a garage. At the second floor, the primary bedroom suite occupies the eastern half, and the western half is occupied by the 2 ensuite bedrooms, a laundry room, a den, and the stairwell. The southwest bedroom includes an open south-facing balcony which will capture a view of the valley, being able to peer over the roof of the proposed Lot 1. The massing is stepped back from the first floor building line on each side. Because strategic landscaping creates a vegetated screen at the north side, more stepping back has been provided for the west and south side in thought of privacy for proposed Lot 1 and other neighbors to the south. The total area of the second floor is 1,605 square feet. The roof is designed to represent traditional craftsman style by incorporating a combination of gable and hipped roofs in one consistent low pitch with modest eaves to allow for exposed rafters and beams. Gables are primarily faced east and west to allow for larger roof plane sheds to follow the natural hillside slopes. Hips are used more frequently on the second floor to maintain low building profile. The roof plan is slightly modified from the plan that you have in your agenda packet, and notably, what you have in your agenda packet shows a south-facing gable on the second floor and a hip here on the southwest portion. What's seen on screen is the intended, and will be demonstrated through elevations and 3D models. The sections here better demonstrate the natural slope and the structure's relationship to it. Here on the top of the slide, you see the west half cut away looking east at the building, with the north at the left and the south at the right. And on the bottom of the slide, you see the north half of the building with the south half cut away. West is on the left and east is on the right. And here I would recommend that you take a look at the TV screens for a better view of the colors represented. The north and south elevation are well fenestrated, providing single hung windows in pairs and standing alone with divided light detail in the top half. Roofs are primarily shed toward the north and south sides, again with braces and beams seen exposed beyond the side projecting eaves. The chimney is present at the north elevation and provides some visual interest to break continuous wall planes. At the north elevation, some massing in the second floor slightly projects where the stairwell is located. At the center of the south elevation, the massing is recessed through the first and second floor to create a private garden space. The balcony of the second floor of the second story is present at the south elevation directly above the family room's expansive opening. The north and south elevations continue the pattern of fenestration with similar use of standalone and paired single-hung windows with divided light detail in the top half. Gable ends are more present on these elevations, highlighting the craftsman style by revealing the secondary material below the gables and presenting braces and exposed beams. The front porch is covered by a projected gable supported on double square posts and piers. The front and back elevations present, the materials here are standing seam metal roof in a charcoal color. For wood trim around the building, you get this sand-like color. It's not well represented here on screen or on the TV. For the siding, there is a green color here, and it's a dark green forest color. I believe it's called chiseled green. And for stonework, you get this mold brick work. And here's the project data. And as you can see, all aspects of this building are compliant with the zoning code, the settlement agreement. There was a neighborhood analysis sampling 9 properties within a 300-foot radius of the property. The residential floor area proposed is 3,813 square feet, which is 106 square feet below the average of the top third of residences in the area. Here is a demonstration of the massing study, showing lot 2 and lot 1 to the left of it. For hillside development permit, staff has found that it is consistent with the general plan for single-family residential use. It meets all zoning regulations, including height, setbacks, and parking. The new construction is on an existing flat building pad. The project does not impact ridgeline views. Development will comply with fuel modification plan. It uses earth tone color palette. For conditional use permit findings, the new house is differentiated from the existing historic structure using a contemporary craftsman style. Baldwin Court provides sufficient access and circulation from the single-family development. The single-family use is consistent with single-family development in its vicinity, and the lot was created for the development. And the project meets all requirements of the zoning code. Project is also consistent with the Stonegate design guidelines in that it is a custom architectural design that responds to the site conditions. The mass and bulk are reduced with breaks in wall plane, roof variation, architectural projections, and open patio. A variety of window sizes and configurations are included to enhance its visual interest. The materials are durable and low maintenance, using metal roof and fiber cement board siding. And its landscape plan is water efficient and an integral part of the project design. Tonight, the Planning Commission may approve the hillside development permit and conditional use permit subject to the conditions of approval as shown in Planning Resolution 23-12. They may approve the applications with modifications, deny the request by identifying the findings that the Planning Commission feels cannot be made and the basis for rejecting those findings, or continue the subject project and provide direction to staff and the applicant. Staff is recommending approval of these applications for Hillside Development Permit 1503 and Conditional Use Permit 1503, subject to conditions of approval in Planning Commission Resolution 23-12. That concludes my presentation, and I do believe the applicant has additional presentation. You can take questions first.
Sure. Questions for staff?
Yeah, I do. I have one just quick question. It's more for my sanity. The street north of this lot, is it Nathaniel Court or is it Edgeview? Because I see it both ways. So
Yes, it's currently Nathaniel Terrace. At one point, it was Edgeview Drive.
okay. I just wanted to make sure 'cause there wasn't another street I was looking for. My other question is, I've seen a bunch of pictures of the house, and I think the trim color I've seen kind of different in every picture. I think it is, there was another color that in your color palette there that had, I think, for trim, that looked even different than that. So I just kind of want to, is that, the trim is like a stained wood, and maybe is that correct? Or is that a paint? I see a lot of what looks like wood in the pictures, but then I just want to make sure that's not paint and is wood, and what color it is.
So yes, that color is not well represented on screen or in print.
Okay.
It is identified in the material, but I would defer to the applicant
Okay,
to clarify that.
sure, no problem.
Any questions for staff? I do have a question. None of the plans seem to really well delineate what is the retaining wall, unless it is directly above the catch basin PVC piping. So
got it.
in slide 12 or slide 13, so it's two questions. On your slide 12 or slide 13, can you point out what the retaining wall is? And then I didn't see like a cut through that showed what the different elevation of the top of it is.
So everything you see on the slide represented with kind of a bold. Here, I don't know if you see the mouse moving along. That's where the retaining walls are located. And at the north end, this has an exposed height of 6 feet through and varying between 6 feet here where it meets this other terrace retaining wall design. And it tapers out down to 3'6" here at the west end, or I'm sorry, east end.
Okay, so it is not flat. It contours with the natural contour of the land?
It'll contour with the natural land adjacent at its north. So the exposed height is, it will step down at some points.
Will step down or it will contour down?
I would have to defer to the applicant
Okay.
to clarify that, but I understand it would step down.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Did you want me to clarify on drainage there? Was that clear?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to present?
So I will use the same model I presented earlier. That model has every building there, so if you want to see more, I can show you. So to answer the question Commissioner has on the trim color, those are stain color, but it has a little bit orange hint in there. So to enhance the wood grains and everything a little bit better. So that's why it looks a little bit orange-ish on the screen. Again, that color is a little bit too much on the screen, but the actual color is a little bit darker a little bit on that one. To answer the retaining wall, it's not contoured down through the slope, but it's stepping. But we can make it every 4 feet, 3 feet, stepping one course or something to follow the contour, because the street on the north side is a much higher taper. I mean, sloping down. So we can work with that. Again, if this will be a very difficult to see that stepping will be bothering, we could, because right now we are using the CMU wall as a block wall to do the retaining wall. But if we want to make that natural looking sloping down, we could do foamy place concrete to do that too. It's just more troublesome to do, but it's doable too. If that will become a major issue or a major item that you see that would be better fit into the natural sloping, we can change to that too. So that's doable. Just want to give a little quick presentation here. Again, we're going to fly through this building. I think the biggest challenging here is still the garage location or the garage door location facing. The challenging here is the side is on a angle sloping side, so the best location for the car entry is where the east-south corner of the lot, and that is pretty much given where the driveway entry is and where the garage direction are. Unfortunately, we try to push the garage to the back of the building, but that will give a very, very long driveway condition, and it's kind of defeating the purpose that we try to make every building more sustainable, reduce the hardscaping, and provide more landscaping or permeable space, that kind of things, that it just doesn't really work that well between the two. So we have to kind of take what it is that to make the garage more where it is right now. To make this garage door less obvious, we are trying to enhance this porch, craftsman porch design to be bigger, and that serves a true function of the design. One is to make the first floor looks much bigger, proportionally to make the second floor more further away and smaller, and also to cover one of the garage door to kind of hidden it behind. And on the two car garage door, we did make the overhang much longer. I believe it's 2 feet or 30 inches overhang to kind of enhance the depths for the garage door, and also we picked the most craftsman decorative style for this. Hopefully that will address the concern of if you cannot make the garage disappear or hidden in the back, at least make it more decorative. So we have been taking that route to make this architectural style and with the garage door for that. And for this design, because Lot 1, since we are here, Lot 1 is even more challenging to get the garage door, because that is no other way to make the garage door or the driveway entry at the same point, because that is more like a triangle lot. Later on, we can review it later. But try to provide more privacy and also the viewing angle to the neighbor. We are setting back on the second floor on the south side a little bit more. Let me change the sun angle here. Here we go. So this one will give the neighbor more upper floor distance and spacing between the two buildings. Having that porch or big balcony facing the cells will give this resident a bit more city view at night or at the daytime. That will look over the Lot 1, which is about 6 to 7 feet lower pad on the compared to the Lot 2. On the north side, it's actually, you can feel, if I going down to the pedestrian view, you will feel this building is more like a one-story building, because it's between 6 to 8 feet or upper to like almost 12 feet lower on the street side. So that will give, that will give you a little bit different aspect on that one. This is a north facing, that's why it's really hard to catch a shadow right here. But we do have a lot of tree here to diffuse the traffic. This is a corner lot, and even though we don't have too many residents above, but we have few. So we try to give some privacy and noise control on the north side to give more tree here. Later on, I believe there's one project north of this has been approved already, so we can minimize the looking over window to window situation once the building has been built. And the left-hand side will be that mid-century modern that we just recently got approved to a couple weeks ago. That's how it looks like from this street angle here. So that pretty much what we have. So, oops, sorry, keep flying through the trees. That's how it's going to look like from the street side for the pedestrian looking over. If you have any question, please feel free to let me know.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for the
Just
applicant?
one, in talking about, you mentioned the long driveway with putting the garage in the back and trying to hide it. The slope on the side, I mean, I've been to the property, but it's hard to imagine because you have another sort of diagrammatic home next door.
Mm-hmm.
What is this? I couldn't really even tell from the drawings. Can you go in more detail about the challenge in terms of slope? Like, I mean, would you have a 10-foot retaining wall to carve out the driveway that goes, putting the garage in the back?
Right now, this garage is about like 3-4 feet above the curb line right now, the curb
Right.
cut right now, and that gives the best scenario to prevent the water intrusion during the rains and everything else. We did try version that this garage door is further set back, and that gives a very long driveway. Number one, number two, we still cannot turn the garage to the south facing side just because. The side is not wide enough to create that 20 feet driveway with another 25 feet of the
Yeah,
backup
not a
space.
south-facing garage, but maybe one, I mean, putting the house in the back and the driveway all the way around to the back with the garage in the back. That's the challenge is the slope in the back, I understand
The
that.
slope in the back, yes, yeah. That would be more cutting into the slope, which is not allowed in the hillside development standard. So at the back, just like Joshua was showing that diagram earlier, we have been trying to cut as much as we can not to trigger that 6 feet high limit. And on top of that, we don't want the resident to facing that 6 feet high retaining wall in the back all the time. So we actually create a terrace retaining wall by 2-step, like 3 feet and 3 feet, or 3 feet and 2.5 feet situation to make that raised garden or raised planter garden to kind of diffuse the retaining wall condition. And again, the south side of the building has been pushing as far as we can. That has been very just butting to the hill. We only have about 4 to 5 feet walkway there. But on the north side, that's why we try to create another, we try to create a, this model doesn't really represent well on that garden, but behind this, we have a little quarter circle garden in the back to create a little bit private open space in the back. This house doesn't have too many open space in their own lot. That's the other reason we didn't really push the the garage to the back of the current location. If pushing another, we could push another maybe 10, 15 feet, but we're losing that little open space in the middle, and that is one of the smaller open space this house has. So after we're pushing that, this house is almost like an apartment, doesn't really have an outdoor space for the private space.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it sort of looks, go ahead, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Not right now, no.
All right.
Oh, I do have one question. The front porch, what is that raised? I see the pillars and everything, but I'm having kind of a hard time
The front,
visualizing what that's gonna look like.
sure, let me pan over. I try to open another standalone model to show better. Oops. Sorry, let me bring back this. Oh. Sorry, bear with me for a second. It's a heavy file. Come on, here we go. The porch has been elevated, depends on which angle you're viewing it, because the north side is a little bit higher, so the side is sloping down. So we try to even the north side of the corner. So on the north side, it's flat with the side, and once you're walking to the south of which is the left side of the building, the porch seems to be higher. That's why we have that walkway. It's kind of elevated out, and then you have like a 2-3 step walking to the porch.
So is that a concrete pad, the porch then?
It's not. It's a concrete pad in the porch, and then there's a stone paver walkway, kind of like walking up to the concrete pad.
Because you can't, I mean, that other door's a garage, right?
Yes, that was
gotta
hidden
have
by the porch cover. That's how we can kind of minimize the 3-car garage to like a more like look like 2-car garage.
Right. No, that's why I was having I think a tough time figuring out what was the driveway and what
Oh,
was
I
the
see, I
porch.
see. Let me see how we can show.
I think my last question would be, this is a standing seam metal roof?
Yes, this one is also stainless steel metal roof. The reason we choose that instead of using other material, number one, this is higher fire hazardous zone. Number one, number two, we try to make this a modern looking to this craftsman house instead of using a wood shingle, or a typical shingle doesn't really reflect to this craftsman house. So that's why we choose the standing seam metal roof for this project as well.
But like, on this, I mean, as drawn on the plans, everything from the left side of the house as we're facing it there to the second pillar in is concrete straight all the way out to the street. Right?
I'm sorry, come again.
Well, there's a
So
driveway.
directly behind that tree doesn't exist, by the way.
Right.
Directly behind the tree, that pillar, everything to the end of the house is concrete all the way to the street.
Correct.
None of that green is actually green, it's actually
Right,
all
right.
concrete.
This. Let me see if I can bring up another model that may be better showing the condition. Sorry, it's still loading. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, the porch is a concrete, and also the driveway. The driveway is not really concrete; it's a permeable paver. But the porch is a concrete. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Any other questions for staff? I mean, for the applicant?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, at this time, we will have public comment from anybody who wishes to speak on this particular agendized item. Seeing none, we will bring it back to the commission for deliberation. You want to lead us off?
Sure. There's a lot of things I like about it. I like the craftsman style to it, or and the coloring. I think it would go well with things in Sierra Madre. I'm not sure I've ever seen a standing seam roof on a craftsman house. I don't know if that's something maybe I just haven't seen. I realize that it is obviously it's metal. It doesn't burn well. I just don't think I've seen a craftsman house around Sierra Madre with that. It just kind of changes the look to me. It's like, it's kind of a craftsman, it's kind of a farmhouse, it's kind of a few different things. So that gives me a little bit of concern, and how, yeah, a lot of the front of the house is a big driveway. And I guess you are hiding part of that one-car garage in the porch line, but you know, it just kind of looks a little bit off to me, honestly. Other than that, that's really all I've got for right now, at least.
Yeah, I can sort of tag onto that a little bit, only because when I saw this in the design and, allowing for software and realities of slopes, I envisioned this house, and when you look at the front of the design, this is one place where the garage doesn't disappear over the horizon into some other hidden space. It's right up front, and there's sort of an edifice aspect, in spite of the craftsmanesque, styling with the open beams. You still get this face of a giant house facing as you go up. I realize there's limitations to this lot, again, things we're stuck with, but I would have liked to seen the garage tucked around to the back. The slope is the challenge on the backside, digging in there, and I don't know how much leeway they'll have with retaining walls, but I would have liked to seen a driveway with the garage in the back and more house up front, even if that means narrowing it off of the lot 1 area, which means they might have to make the house smaller to get the angle planes and things like that in, but that was how I saw this house. It just looks like there's too much bulk up front, and the open spaces of the craftsmen don't hide it enough for me.
So I thought that the style fit very well into the surroundings. And I thought that they used every single trick they had in their book to make that second story not look any bigger than it was, at the absolute maximum that you could get away with on the second story. So I commend you for really staying within that. The massing on that second story is stepped all the way around. I think that was a really good job. And I mean, one more square foot and I would have been like, that's too big. You really, you found the limit. Well done. The siding of the house, I understand, in order to preserve the backyard, but I think that you could have gotten rid of a lot of the challenges that we're having with it by pushing it further back. The deck to the south, you've been conscientious about making sure that you're not overly seeing into other people's yards. So I think that the height on that was a good explanation. Hopefully people will be looking only over the other house, or when we see that next house, we'll not be curious as to why there's no windows on that side, or smaller windows. I did have a challenge, B2-3 of the design guidelines, avoid garages being the dominant architectural feature facing the street. I know that in order to preserve that back area, you didn't want to push the house any further back. While I don't feel like it had to be at the back of the house, I think that pushing it further back is just a must. I mean, if you look at figure 2, I think it's figure 2. That sounds wrong. Can't be figure 2. I think I forgot a number there. That's section B2-3. Just one second, I apologize. Oh, it is figure 2. So it has appropriate garage configurations in the design guidelines. And if you look at any of them, none of them would have that garage start that close to the street. It just wouldn't. And so I don't know how to move forward to make the findings because of the placement of the garage. And then, I mean, one idea would be to push it back all the way to the TV wall. I think, cancel the atrium area there, and that TV wall is probably that would be like the minimum distance to set that back, the back wall of the garage, in my opinion. I think that the other challenge, and it was one of your clever tricks to minimize the look of the second story by making the first story look bigger, but it also infringed on one of the guidelines, which was D8-2. Porches should be architecturally integrated into the design of the structure. If you look at figure 30, it really looks as if you took the design that says don't do this and put it into your design. So as you look at figure 30, it literally uses the 2 posts sitting on top of big stone massing. And so I just, that was really challenging to me. I understand the logic, and I appreciate trying to visually break that up, but I think we need to find a creative way that doesn't interfere with that figure 30. The other thing is that there was a third pilaster in between the 2 structural ones, which made it look even more massive in that front area. So on the north side there's 3, on the south side there's 2. So obviously the span is sufficient to be carried by the 2. I think you'd need to cancel the third. But I think that with those 2 things in mind, I think that a rework of the front is really what's needed in order to comply with the guidelines. And then, G2-1 says that the tops of retaining walls should blend with natural contours. Concrete's not one of the acceptable options, but I think that making sure that we're conscientious about stepping as frequently as possible to capture that elevation change. Some of the other wall choices might be easier to follow that contour. On some of the other lots that we've seen where it was at the dividing wall between two different lots, it makes perfect sense to have a very square, very flat, very solid wall because of the nature of the separation of the two and the way the lots are. But this lot is so beautifully laid out to have this minimalist undulating wall following it. I'd really love to see, I understand that there's trade-offs of building with rock rather than pre-made, easy to lay. And so I'm not, it's not a deal breaker for me. If it's something you would consider, I think it would go a long way. And so, I mean, with that, I think that we can probably continue this would be my recommendation.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Would you like to continue it to a date certain, or do you want a little more time on this one?
I think 2 weeks is about right. 4 o'clock. I'll talk to Vincent about that because like.
Well, we actually have to do that tonight. Otherwise, it can't be a date certain, and you have to renotice, which I'm trying to avoid the cost of renoticing.
If we continue it for another month, 2 more meetings, that'll put us to September 7th.
Yeah, that sounds.
Okay.
All right. So do we need a motion to continue it to a date certain?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'll look for a motion to continue this to a date certain of September 7th.
I'll make a motion to continue this to a date certain of September 7th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up, we have consideration of Resolution 23-14 designating Lizzie's Trail Inn as a historic landmark to be included in the Sierra Madre Register of Designated Historic Landmarks for the property located at 165 East Miramonte Avenue.
We do have a brief PowerPoint presentation for you, so we're going to cue that up. Be a moment. So as you mentioned, this is a historic designation for a city-owned property, 165 East Miramonte Avenue, referred to as Lizzie's Trail Inn. The site is located just northeast of Mount Wilson Trail, with frontage also on East Miramonte Avenue, sited between those two city water tanks. The zoning designation is civic as well as its land use. The Richardson House was constructed. There's also 2 buildings on this site, one being the Richardson House, the other Lizzie's Trail Inn. I'm mentioning both, and we'll find out why as I continue with this presentation. But just wanted to point out that the Richardson House was constructed in 1879, Lizzie's Trail Inn between 1890 and 1900. Both structures are used as a museum. So I also wanted to point out that under Sierra Madre Municipal Code 17.04.090, applications to the city, we are exempt from actually going through this procedure, but staff felt it would be prudent to treat city property as we would treat residential property in the city. So we are taking this through for both the Planning Commission and City Council's consideration for designation. This particular building, this is the Richardson House. Just wanted to show a couple of views of this. This is a designated building. it is in our historic resources list. The item that we're considering tonight is the designation of Lizzie's Trail Inn. I'm providing two building elevations. First one on the left is the primary facing facade, southern facade looking north, and also the western facade as viewed from Mount Wilson Trail. In the Historic Resource Evaluation Report, both the buildings, both Richardson House as well as Lizzie's Trail Inn, are vernacular in design and are not architecturally significant. An image of Elizabeth Louisa or Lizzie Stoppel. She was actually born in Ukraine and migrated to the United States. She acquired this property and also then sold it to the Ormes, who purchased it from Lizzie in 1925, actually from William Cayley, and he operated a trail stop and restaurant at this location prior to her obtaining the property. Then she sold the property to relatives in 1935. Robert and Thelma Orme are her relatives of Stoppel and took over the restaurant, continued operation of the facility until 1948. And then the city acquired ownership of the property, including both buildings, in 1971. You can also see there's an image of a raid by the G-men because Lizzie was operating a steel at this site in 1924 during Prohibition. So under criterion A, historic, staff believes that this project qualifies and meets the requirements. Specifically, it's closely associated with early settlement, residential development, and early recreational trail expedition on the Mount Wilson Trail, and it's significant for that purpose. The trail was a location for recreational expeditions prior to the construction of this site, of this building. This building was actually moved to this site. It was actually located on the west side of Mount Wilson Trail, as well as the Richardson House. So they were both relocated to its current location. The Planning Commission has the ability to either adopt Resolution 2314, which makes a recommendation to the City Council to designate Lizzie's Trail Inn as an historic landmark. The Planning Commission can also approve with modifications Resolution 2314 or continue the public hearing, providing direction to staff. Very brief presentation, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to ask them at this time.
Any questions for staff?
No, just a comment. I always thought it was part of the historic establishment of the Richardson House, and so
Yeah.
it's news to me that it doesn't have.
I was
its own-
surprised when I saw that it wasn't also.
Yeah, I was in it recently too, and surprised that not that surprised that there was a still that the G-men were there. I mean, you're thinking, who would come to Sierra Madre, right, to bust a still that goes up in the mountains? But your government at work. Anyway, it's a cute building.
So this item will be scheduled on August 22nd of the City Council meeting on August 22nd for their consideration of the designation.
So first we'll take public comment and then vote on it.
Yes.
At this time, anybody who wishes to speak to this specific agendized item may come forward. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for deliberation. I have no problems making a finding.
I have no problem at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think since I thought it was already part of it, we got to make it official. So, maybe they can get some federal funding from the G-men.
That's right. Reparations.
That's right.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, what's the resolution again? 10, oh, there it is. Yes, so I move that we approve resolution 2314 designating Lizzie's Trail as a historic landmark and to be included into the Sierra Madre Registry of Designated Historic Landmarks.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, next up, Planning Commission reports. Anybody have anything?
Do we have when's our next meeting?
2 weeks.
Which is
17th?
17th? I will be gone. Taking my daughter to school. To college, actually, so we'll be out of state.
All right. Anything else to report? No. I guess that turns it over to the Planning and Community Preservation Department report.
So we have 2 projects scheduled on August 17th, which is 603 Baldwin Court, Lot 1, which you saw a little bit of, which is adjacent to Lot 2, to the south of that. We'll be reviewing that as a new hillside development permit application. And also 595 Auburn Avenue, which is a design review permit for a replacement single-family dwelling, and it'll be a new 2-story building that's proposed at that site.
All right.
And if anybody has any conflicts of interest, proximity, we'll take that into consideration as well at the next meeting.
Okay.
Let me see, on August 22nd, City Council agenda. I do have the noise ordinance for first reading. That was actually continued by the City Council on 2 occasions, back on June 22nd, and it's actually being continued again on August 22nd. So that first reading will actually go into September 12th. So it keeps getting bounced around a little bit. Partly we had some vacations, as well as, dark in August, City Council dark. We'll also have another item, just a professional services agreement with Wildan, who is our consulting engineers and provide building plan check. We also have a fire contract with them that has expired, so we are going to amend that contract and bring that to the City Council for consideration. Those are all the items that I have.
Great, thank you. Hearing nothing else to come before, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you.